Good morning, traders, and welcome to a continuation of our Start to Finish series. So this is on an Apple put credit spread that I sold last week. Again, all of this, if you're following along, should certainly be done in paper for learning purposes. Go back and look at that video if you're unsure as to the thought process behind that. But essentially, in a nutshell, very quickly, the objective or the thought process was Apple had a very significant sell-off here. I mean, about a 10% sell-off after their earnings. It came down, it consolidated right at what had been previous highs. So that kind of tells me from a very rudimentary technical analysis standpoint that this might be a consolidation point, and it largely has been up until this point. Now, I actually expected Apple to bounce from here, but if my premise at the time, which it was that Apple was going to stall here or maybe consolidate here, I decided to sell a put credit spread. So I did, I sold this 180 put for $2.94. And then I, of course, don't want unlimited risk in this trade, and no newer trader ever should. You should always have a backup, if you will, or limit your risk through spreads. So then I came and I bought the 175 put for $1.17. Now the difference between those two is this $177 in credit that I took in on this trade. Now, because I sold the 180, my goal is to have Apple end at expiration, which is this Friday, above 180. If it does, then I get to keep my $177 in credit. As we can see, Apple hasn't really bounced here. It's kind of chopping sideways at this point, and we only have 3 days to go in this trade. So if Apple stalls and decays right here come Friday, I would end up with a $20 profit, something like that. So what can I do to this trade that might help me out at this point? Of course, with options, everything is a trade-off. So my plan has adjusted a little bit here to where I now think Apple might not rally, or if it does rally, it probably won't rally a lot. Right now this position is down $14. So let me show you something that a trader can consider on this trade. I mean, one thing is just close the trade. Close the trade, take that risk off the table if you don't think Apple has a good chance of bouncing at this point. Because again, if we just expire here, it doesn't really do us any good. We might make a buck or two, but in exchange for that, we've got $323 in risk. So what other things might I do to maybe reduce my risk a little bit? Possibly give me a little more upside potential in this trade? Well, a logical thing to do, and I'd rather do this. Apple's trading here at 178. This would be a lot more effective trade if Apple was trading closer to 180. But what I can do is I can come in now and sell a call spread. There's not a lot of time left on this trade, so I'm not going to get a lot of money for this, and I need to know that going in. But I can come in and I can sell a call, and I will sell it at 180, but I don't want this unlimited upside risk that I now have. We can see this reduced my downside risk considerably, but I don't want that significant or unlimited upside risk. Again, a newer trader especially should never ever trade something that is a naked short specifically, which is what this call would be at this point. So I need to put in some protection up there too, just in case Apple were to rip up. I don't expect that at this point. But so I'm going to buy a call now, and I'll buy that call up here at, say, 185. Doing that has turned this into a butterfly, and you can see where this dash line, this white dash line here, if Apple stayed where it was, I was going to end up with maybe $10, $12 in profit. Well, now if Apple stays in this same spot, I'll end up with $94 in profit on Friday at expiration. So how did I, and you also see that my risk now, where it was 330, well, it's now 250. But in exchange for that, I picked up risk on the upper side. I'm not too worried about that, though. When we looked at the Apple chart, I think the likelihood of Apple ripping up at this point is not real big. Now, let me show you kind of how this whole thing happened. So specifically, what I want to look at here is I want to look at now two key numbers, our theta, which is 1732 right now after adding this call spread. Our delta is 19. Still fairly bullish, but without that, if we take these back out of here, you'll see that my theta is virtually non-existent. I'm making $2 a day by this thing sitting here doing nothing. And I'm 48 delta, so that's pretty bullish. In other words, I need this thing to really go up if I'm that positive delta. So by coming in and adding in these two sides of this trade, I've brought in additional money. That additional money has increased my theta decay. It's flattened my delta a little bit. I could even make a case to step this out a little bit further and do something like this, which does give me more risk to the upside, a little less risk to the downside. But again, I'm so close to expiration here that that does not make a big difference. So I'm going to go ahead and make this adjustment on this. Again, this trade right now is a slight loser. My theory is that Apple is not going to probably break down from here below maybe my break-even point of around 177.50, somewhere in there. If that is my premise, if I do think that's what might happen here with Apple, I should just be getting out of this position right now. I should not be carrying this into expiration in 3 days. But if my premise is that Apple might stay about where it is, or it still might climb up a little bit, then adding this call spread is a good move to make. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this trade. And let's see, bull put spread, and I'm going to say converted to iron butterfly. And I'm going to save as a new trade so that we can keep that original one intact. And then I will copy this link. I'll share this link with everyone as well. And of course, as I've asked previously, if you find this sort of thing to be of value, to be of help in your learning path with options, please like, subscribe, and provide any comments as well that might help me out in providing more of this type of content for everyone. Thank you so much. Take care.